Let's talk again about the Alice. We know the Prime Minister flew in and flew out. He left some new alcohol restrictions behind and then he went down to Melbourne. But of course, the crime and dysfunction continues. No one would expect any different. These are long-standing problems. There can be surges, as we've seen. But as you can see, the problems do persist. And tragically, we have to realise, if we're going to deal with this properly, that these are long-standing problems in the Alice and so many other areas too. Other towns in the Territory, also in outback New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia and Western Australia. But let's focus on Alice Springs and go there now. And I'm pleased to catch up with filmmaker Rachel Perkins, who calls the Alice home. And with her is Ken Leitner, who's a research officer with the Central Australian Aboriginal Congress. Thanks both for joining us. Rachel, you're a local. Alice Springs is your town. How much does it break your heart to see these problems of crime, violence on the streets and the surge that's occurred over the past 6 months?
It is heartbreaking. This is the street which I live on, and Ken and I are both Aranda people. This is our people's country. And this is a town we love. So it is heartbreaking, yes. And
Ken, is it something that can be solved? Or do people accept that this has been going on for decades and we have to put up with it?
Look, Chris, if the autonomy is given back to the people, right, they're able to sort of at least come up with solutions and how to deal with these issues. But for such a long time, Aboriginal people have had their autonomy taken away from them.
So you're saying there's...
it's about time...
Sorry to cut across. The delay caught us there. Let me just put you some of an interview that we heard earlier tonight on Peter Quedlin's program. And this is Rachel Hale, who's a nurse and has nursed in the area and saw a lot of violence yesterday. She's talking about some of the sexual abuse and other abuse that her children could be suffering at home that's forcing them onto the streets. Have a look.
I've seen a little 4-year-old boy come in with the anal warts, a 6-year-old girl with the vaginal sores, an entire family, from the little kids to the parents with the same strain of gonorrhea.
These are the difficult and shocking things to talk about, Rachel, but rather than talk about why the kids, what they're doing on the streets, it's these issues, isn't it, that are meaning their home is not a good haven for them, is not a sanctuary for them.
Yes, well, you're dealing with a situation here of intergenerational alcohol abuse, and our people have been talking about this problem for a very, very long time. My father led the first anti-grog march through the streets in 1995. You know, this is not a new problem, but the thing that I think is tragic, not only the human tragedy that we've seen unfolding for a long time in Alice Springs and other communities. And let's remember, though, that the Territory has the highest drinking in Australia. So it's not just an Indigenous problem. There's alcoholism across the Territory. But let me say that the terrible thing also is that this trauma is being used as political point scoring. You know, that is tragic. So
well, that is a big problem.
The things.
There's so much partisanship in this. Ken, I know you do a lot of work with men's communities and men's sheds and the like. Tell us about that. If in so many cases men can be the perpetrators of domestic violence, are enough men being brought to justice? Are enough men being rehabilitated? Okay. Are young boys being destroyed before they even reach manhood?
Did you hear that?
No, not really.
I'm just going to... Ken's got an issue with his
Yep, you relay it for me, Rachel.
You work with men,
yes,
you know,
yep.
and are there enough programs to assist men because they're being accused of being perpetrators?
Look, a lot of the programs absolutely miss men. A lot of the actual programs you look at, they say women and children, not men. Men aren't being included as part of the family, but also a part of the solution. Because if you actually teach the man, and we've actually done sort of sessions in the prison, and we say, look, what are you in here for? And they say, oh, domestic violence. But then when you say, you know what, stop sugarcoating it, domestic violence means you're a woman basher, and then we have an automatic change straight away. So let's use the direct language to get the right sort of message across. And our men haven't been sort of kind of resourced to be able to go through this sort of kind of unpacking and repacking on how to actually live in this two world.
Yeah.
So we need men programs to be supported.